All right, everyone, welcome back. Happy holidays. And we are going to be finishing our 100K call system series with our third and final piece, which is our A+ player talent and our virtual team members that helped to ultimately deliver on converting the right leads for our business. When we set them up for success with systems and data, we cap that off with the right virtual talent to help us qualify the best opportunities for our real estate business at scale. When we put the three together, we create what we call our 100K call system and really a marketing engine that can create a 6-figure, 7-figure revenue funnel for you in your business. And so when we think about A player talent, right, we want to make sure that they're the right cultural fit. A player talent should be enabled in their role, right? They should come in with the right skills, come in with the right level of experience, but also be supported in the way that they can find new and creative ways of doing and delivering their role, and that you are ultimately going to be enabling them in order to do that. And then also they should be invested into, right? Not just looking at these people like they're cogs in the wheel of your business, but looking at them more as value-added partners to your company. And if you treat them as such, they will deliver in ways that you can't even imagine, and they will wake up every day with a smile on their face and qualify opportunity after opportunity for your team. So never forget, these folks should be invested into and should grow within your company, because A player talent ultimately is the lifeblood of your business. And I think about all the hurdles and up and down roller coaster ride that has been this real estate market in the 5 years that I've been marketing in this space. And my team, certainly in my business, would not be able to survive without my talent and without my virtual team members helping me along the way. So this matters. Take this serious, invest into this part of your business, and you will be given back a 10x return and then some, I can promise you, from these people. So let's go in. Now, we're going to go over just a quick reminder of the 100K call system hierarchy, a 5-step process for hiring your first VA. We're actually going to go over the exact framework that my VA operations manager, Amnea, had set forth in a webinar for us a few weeks back. And then we're going to go over just a few quick tools that we can use to scale and manage a virtual team, 2 helpful resources that helped me during my first time growing DIY real estate group. So I'm going to give those to you guys completely free. And then we welcome you to book a VA audit with Omnia before end of year, so that you guys can either get your business set up for a new VA coming into your seat, or we can look at the current VA that you have in the seat, give them a proper audit, and see if you can maximize that investment a little bit better, and if we can help tweak anything that will save you time or money in the new year. And then we'll wrap up with Q&A. So as we cap off the third and final piece, right, we went over premium data as the first component of the 100K call system. We then transitioned to best-in-class software and how these two really help set our A player talent up for success. Now, when we think about A player talent, and we think about 3 roles that you should remove yourself from as quickly as possible, and really in this order is what I find works best. Number 1 is lead generation. Get yourself out of the cold generation seat as quickly as you possibly can, so you can focus on qualifying or converting warm leads in your business. That's where your time is best spent as the acquisitions leader. Number 2 is data management. Things like list building, list tagging, skip tracing, just list prep, right? There's a lot that goes into the data side of the business when you're doing outbound sales. So that's the second thing that I've found myself removing from as quickly as I possibly could. And then third and final is systems maintenance and support. Now, the dialer is, and tech and software in your business does take a lot of TLC. It does take a level of understanding software and technology, and you also need to make sure it's not a set. None of these products are set and forget solution. So you always need to be upgrading them. You need to be reviewing their new features and functionalities and maximizing that investment. And that takes a lot of time and energy. So as soon as you can afford it, or find someone that's the right has the right skill sets for your business that can help you in the systems department, bring them on board, because it will help you in a big way, even if it's just a part-time role or a project-based role to start. All right, so these are the 3 that I want you to start thinking about if you haven't already done so. Number 1 and most important is lead gen. So let's think about how do we go and find this person then, right? If we know, okay, Kyle, thanks, you've given us the idea of what we need to start removing ourselves from. Okay, how do I go out and find this person? All right, let's say you're going to decide not to work with our team, or you want to just build your own team organically from the ground up. Here is a quick and easy 5-step process that you can do immediately that is completely free to go out and find your next virtual assistant. Number one is we need to define the role, right? What ultimately are you looking to get fulfilled within your business? And is the end goal something that is going to save you time or ultimately make you more money? And if you can answer those questions with a yes, then it makes sense to delegate and offload that task to somebody else. So number one, what do you need to get done? Very simple, right? Number two, can this be automated, right? Can we automate this process with a person? Can we automate this process with a piece of software? Can we use AI, right? Asking yourself, can this now be automated? Then you want to define those responsibilities. Okay, now I know what needs to be done. I have figured out a way with a person and a mixture of putting this person with some software to now sort of automate and make this process more efficient. Great. Now, what are the day-to-day responsibilities? Okay. What does this person need to be doing as soon as they step into their seat every day? Is it they need to make 100 calls? Do they need to speak to 100 people? Do they need to pull 10 lists and skip trace 10,000 records, right? This depends on what you need to get done and mapping those out clear and simple so that this virtual assistant can take that and they understand their responsibilities every single day. Then, of course, understand the desired outcome, right? Not only is that important for you as the manager to know where you're going and what that desired outcome ultimately is, but that person, that virtual assistant, they need to understand what the outcome is. They need to understand what they're working towards as well. And then ultimately going down the timeline of when do you need this done? Okay, what is that ultimate goal for when you need this finished so that we can work backwards and make sure that we're hitting our daily responsibilities so that we hit the desired outcome, all right? There is a webinar in the section for elite members where we break this down in more in depth with Omnia, and we actually go through creating an SOP for a cold calling role. I'm not going to go over that on this call, but if you need to go back and look at an actual hands-on example, you can refer to that in the weekly trainings module section in the school community. Now we need to develop our SOP. So once we've defined the role, once we've figured out exactly what we need done, or exactly basically the person that we need to find in order to complete these tasks, now we need to create the standard operating procedure, or SOPs as we call it, that this person is going to use when they step into the seat. Okay. So here's an example of an SOP that I created for my clients to help break down a very easy and step-by-step process of how to build their buyer's book for free. And so you'll notice I have each step, what the desired or what the actual step requires. Here are the tools that they're going to need in order to get this done. And then here's some best practices or rules of thumb, things that I always recommend they should be doing or keeping in mind as they're going out and doing this task. All right, then I have another second step, an example of exactly what you can post, the actual template that I use so you can copy and paste and make it very easy. And really that's what standard operating procedures are purpose made to do, is to be as easy for someone else to digest the information as possible, to make it extremely clear, give them some expected hurdles or potential objections that they could face as they're doing this, and then ultimately the desired outcome. And then you can put in some examples of, screenshots, what this might look like as they're doing it, so it makes it easier for them to follow, templates so they can just quickly copy and paste. It's really just helpful to have as much of a clear picture of what you want this person to be doing when they're conducting the actual task. What is the outcome, what is the eventual task's outcome look like, and what does the end product look like is what I meant to say. And then ultimately the timeline in which you should get this done. So here is just more of the standard operating procedure of how to get it done. Excuse me, getting over a cold. with some potential FAQs, some frequently asked questions when we've had others do this in the past. But I didn't establish the timeline. I didn't establish when I want this done. Right? These are things that if I was training a virtual assistant, I would require that to be in my standard operating procedure or in my SOPs. So that's crystal clear for the person. Okay. So as you can see in my example, I hit on a few of these, probably most of them actually. Let's just see the ones that I didn't hit, right? So I built a step-by-step process. I included links to the materials that would need to get done or templates. I did not clarify who was responsible for, or I didn't call out necessarily the role of people that needed to be using this document, but that certainly is something you can do as you're speaking to an actual department or a person within your business. Okay, so, and then I already spoke to this, but I didn't put the expected outcome or timeline. But this is a really helpful framework, simple and easy. When you create an SOP and you're ready to go bring this to a team member, make sure you cover all these different talking points or areas within the SOP, because that will help cover all of the areas that they need to know in order to go out and successfully deliver on this procedure. Okay. So again, we went through an example of building one in a weekly training. I will have the link in the bottom of the description, so that way you can quickly go and reference it when needed. I'm not going to do that today, but this is again step number 2 in the simple 5-step process. And here you'll see is the exact example that we filled out on the training with Omnia and one of our attendees. All right, so you'll see example, this was for a cold caller, and that way we had an idea of the expected outcome, the process steps to get there, what their KPIs and expectations were, the outline in which they wanted, or sorry, the timeline in which we wanted them to get this done, and when we would be reviewing. So feel free to take a screenshot or again, revert back to the training when we fill that out live. Now, number 3, of course, is okay, we've established the role, we've figured out how we want to, or we're ultimately calling out the exact person that we need in order to get this job done. Then we've created the resource or the standard operating procedure that talent is going to use when they get into the role. Now, ultimately, we need to go out and source this person, right? So that way we built the foundation with steps 1 and steps 2, preparing our business to take in this person. Now we've understood as the business manager or owner exactly who we need to be finding. Now it's time to go out and find this person. So good news is I have a SOP in the hiring folder for everyone that needs it. It's actually in the hiring folder section under virtual assistants in the elite and starter member course. You'll see under hiring. And there is a SOP called Virtual Assistants Facebook Hiring Funnel, adjust for all job roles. So I actually gave you some examples of groups, virtual groups that you can join. I gave you examples of posts that you can create, and the actual hiring funnel that I used when I went out and started building all of my virtual assistants for CNC, my wholesaling business, and DIY, my call center and service business. Okay. So this was a lot of the same posts that I used. You can see the examples here. I even have the same form that I used, right? Everything does not need to be reinvented. You guys can simply copy and paste and make it your own. I would highly recommend going through and adding, obviously updating the years, updating your business name, updating the actual role that you're calling out. So please read through this, but most of the work and the hard work has been done for you. So just go ahead, leverage this SOP. You'll see here, we make some recommendations of areas that you can find virtual assistants in, but here's where I'd recommend going first, Facebook. Reason being is you're not gonna have to pay a premium for them most of the time on Facebook, whereas in Upwork, Fiverr, you have to pay the platform. A lot of the money is actually going towards Upwork and Fiverr and not necessarily the talent. So it ends up being a win-win for everyone, both the actual virtual assistant and you for your business, because all of your money is going towards their hard work. They probably won't, most cases won't charge you as much as Upwork or Fiverr would, because there's no margin baked in, right? So hopefully that made sense. My recommendation is go on LinkedIn, go on Facebook, go on these free groups and platforms where you can just talk directly to these virtual assistants and not have to pay a company to do that. All right, because most of the people, if not all of them that are on Upwork and Fiverr, are just finding their own work on these platforms. Okay, so you can find the same people. Now, the idea is you want to go out and find and call out to as many people as possible. Okay, there's some best practices, tips, and tricks that you can create for your actual hiring funnel. I do give those best practices in the hiring funnel example and SOP that I shared with you. So make sure you read that through. One quick tip is I created a welcome video on my hiring form, and that welcome video helped to share who I was, what I was looking for in a culture fit for a potential virtual assistant, where the business was going, and ultimately shared the vision and mission of DIY Real Estate Group. And so that helped to get a lot of excitement when people were coming on board to a startup company. Okay, so that welcome video really made it a lot of qualified people respond to my application at a very early and infant stage of my company. So a lot of people that I don't think would have taken a chance on DIY at the time it did ultimately wanted to apply because of how thorough I was in the application and the video component of it. That's not me saying that. I got that feedback from a lot of my team members in the beginning. So wanted to share that with you guys. I think it's a super helpful step that not a lot of people take. So that's one example. There's a couple other ones. And again, the exact form and funnel is all in that SOP folder for you. So that's just step 3 is, okay, go out and create a hiring funnel. Go out and post in as many groups as possible and start creating an inbound funnel of applicants, okay? And that's where you can start to filter down based on all of your answers. You're going to start seeing common trends in the responses. So you can easily review answers. You can color code them if that's easier for you. That's certainly what I did in my team. And you can just start picking out the right fits, and you ultimately want to shortlist, up to 5 candidates or so, people that you really feel good about. And those are the people you want to go to the interview stage with, okay? And then the ultimate goal is after you've interviewed, up to 5 candidates or so, you're then going to want to narrow down to the top fit. And so this is going to be a new exercise for many of you, but do it as fast and fail as fast as you possibly can, because it takes some time getting used to. And it does take a lot of time to find the right talent for your business. So don't just say don't just say yes to the first person that you get excited about that answers your application. All right. So now what we want to do is we need to get this person acclimated into our business and get them onboarded. I wouldn't say as quickly as possible, but the quicker we get them into your business and into the seat and comfortable in their role, the quicker you can maximize that investment of that virtual assistant, right? So we want to have a structured onboarding plan. We want to create a 30, 60, 90-day plan. Even if you've never had a virtual assistant before, build one, right? It's good to have that. It's good for you as a manager and leader to have this plan as a guideline, see how much you stay on track. But it's also good for the talent to see that you have a 30, 60, 90-day plan, because it shows that you're caring about that and you're investing first and foremost, but that investment shows that you care, right? So by having this attention to detail and having this plan and showing that to the talent, it's going to get them excited about working with your company, okay? And just let them know that there's opportunities for you to divert from this. You're going to learn from it along the way. Just be open and transparent and be vulnerable with this person. But just share that, like, hey, this is what we're going to try to execute on in the first 30 days. We're going to evaluate how you performed in the 30-day period. This is what we're expecting in this first 30 days. And we're going to review after that 30-day mark and then try to execute on the next 30 days for our 60-day plan. And then you establish your, final 30 days in your 90-day plan, right? So that full quarter is mapped out. They can understand what they need to do to get to being ready and prepared in the role, and that you're going to be there along the way to help stay on this timeline. All right. So first, day 1 is going to be a quick business overview and really just getting to know one another, getting to know the business, what's the lay of the land, where does everything reside as far as resources that they need, and how do they get access to all the different items that's going to be required of them to do their day-to-day. Then by the end of week 1, you want to have a thorough understanding of the business, a thorough understanding of the tools, and training has been completed on the tools that they're going to need in order to finish or conduct their role efficiently, right? So you want to have that finished ideally by week 1. So that in week 2 and week 3, this is where they're actually doing the role. Start assigning tasks. As they're getting more comfortable and they start completing these tasks, increase the complexity, right? Start to really wean off the talent and really get them working and creatively solving problems and coming prepared and coming to you with questions and hurdles that they're facing. You want to babysit this person, but we want to make sure that we're ultimately assessing the quality of work that they're completing and then starting to add more complexity and more asks of them to really see how they respond. Okay. We're going to talk about KPI reviews and feedback loop, etc. But this is where we're really wanting to test again. Is this person a good fit in those first 30 days? Do they have the skill sets that they need, not just to effectively manage the role now, but can they grow within the company, right? Can they start as a cold caller? Can they start as a data specialist? Can they start as an entry-level person and move into a managerial departmental leader role where that person is going to take over that side of the business for you eventually? Again, we won't have that answered in the first 30 days, but just start thinking about that. Have that idea, right? Just have a plan with these folks so that you can execute on that plan and get them growing and developing in the role as quickly as possible. So there's a lot of great product management tools out there. Things that we use in our business is ClickUp. We've used all the others in the past. We just happen to like ClickUp the most, but they're free for the most part. All of them have a free version and they allow you a lot of storage before you have to pay. So take advantage of that and leverage that when it comes to project management, task delegation, and task auditing. Okay. Now, as we wrap up, this brings us to our final piece is step number 5, measuring performance. All right. This is the most important piece to growing a team and also managing a team efficiently. So there's 2 really data sets that you're going to be monitoring, and you're going to look at quantitative data. So these are things like how many tasks have they completed each day? Are they actually showing up and ultimately doing the work? This is going to help us understand VA productivity, whereas the qualitative data, this is going to allow us to assess virtual assistant efficiency. Okay, how great, like how good are they, or the quality of the work that they're putting forth in the role, not just the volume that they're doing or the number of tasks, but how ultimately what's the quality. And this will uncover growth in their role. How are they taking our coaching? How are they taking our feedback? And ultimately their buy-in. And if they are who they say they are at the end of the day. So in combination, by monitoring these 2, these will allow us to ultimately figure out, especially when we start doing this at scale, as you can see here, this is our entire team where we have a color coding, conditional formatting, a number and point system in place, right? A lot of creative ways that we've been able to figure out how to maintain a large team and not lose on data reviews and qualitative reviews together. Okay. So some really helpful tools that allow you to track, obviously the lead gen platform, if they are using Power Dialer, SMS platform. There's also tools like Screenshot Monitor, Clockify, Google Forms. These are things, again, we went over in depth in the webinar. If you want to go check that out, just check the link below. But for sake of today, we wanted to be quick, brief, and efficient. These are just some things to get you thinking about, okay, now if I need to sit down and review performance, what do you need to be thinking about on both the quantitative and qualitative data side? And what tools can you ultimately leverage in order to do that effectively and do it at scale as we start building a team? So take a peek at those products and take a peek at our webinar where we'll dive into all that in more detail as well. So now let's think about scaling. All right, let's think about growing a team. And there's going to be 2 resources that we leverage in my business that you guys will have access to that allow us to effectively grow and scale a team. At one point, it was up to 52 virtual assistants. We had to scale that back a little bit, thankfully. This was our early 2023 org chart. Now I don't even know how big our team is sometimes. I have people coming into our company every single month that are new, fresh faces, fulfilling roles and needs across the business that I have never met before, and I have no idea even when they jumped on board or how long they've been with us sometimes. And that's a testament to my virtual my operations manager, Anea. That's a testament to my other operations manager, Wafiq, because now they run my entire organization. They run my entire virtual team. They allow me as the CEO, as the business manager, as the leader of the company to focus on the tasks that make sense and drive revenue for the company, so I don't get caught up in the minutia of the day-to-day anymore. This is a really cool and fun world to live in. You don't need to go build a massive team in order to get that. You can build a team of 2, 3, 4 and have complete freedom in your business. This just happens to be the structure that we have, and what's required of us to deliver our service to our clients. But it's an amazing thing when you can wake up one day and see this, and it really is an amazing feeling as a business leader. And this is what I want for each and every one of you. So here are two free resources that we created that allowed us to audit. It's our quality assurance audit form. This is filled out by the manager, and it's the end of day report that is actually filled out by the agent. So what this allowed us to do is it allows us to be able to see based on common responses. And when we did conditional formatting, as you saw here in this slide, right, these responses from the audit form come in, and it allows us to see who's underperforming, who's overperforming, how and why are they performing the way they are. And then we can look into other qualitative data points and notes that have been taken from the QA auditors, the team leaders, and individual one-on-ones, right? And this allows us to be able to see how our team is growing and developing at scale. So we didn't have these two tools at first. And for those that know my story, I had to rebuild my team, fire half of them after we jumped too high. We grew to 52, and then we had to pretty much drop to like sub 30 in order to keep the business going. But we realized very quickly where the gaps were within our business. And one of the biggest areas was not having proper quality assurance and auditing at scale. Basically, not being able to monitor and manage our team members' progress from a larger view, right? Everything we were doing before was manual. It took us a lot of time, and a lot of the information, there was gaps and things that we were missing that were lagging and leading indicators of the performance of the internal team. And so once we built these tools for ourselves and then made it a point to respond and fill these out on a daily basis, that's what allowed us to manage the team more efficiently and allowed us to get to this point without breaking the business. So for those that are looking for some additional help, and again, those tools can be found in the virtual assistant section under the VA management folder. And that's where you're going to be able to see an example of the responses, and you're going to be able to see 2 copies that you can make and create for yourself for the end of day report and the QA auditing form. So as we wrap up, as I mentioned, Nea is going to be doing complimentary VA audits. So if you currently have a virtual assistant, if you feel like you're not getting the most out of that person and you're needing them to be more productive in the new year, we can come in, we're going to do a time, productivity, reporting, goal setting, and management audit in order to get a better ROI from that person in 2025. Now, if you don't have a virtual assistant and you're thinking about getting one or wanting to build a team, we can use this time to build a good foundation for you. Make sure your business is prepped and ready to take on a virtual assistant in the new year, so that we're going to help set your business up for success as soon as we hit Jan 1. So book these calls. They're not going to be free for much longer. There's going to be a link below. Get with Amnea. She's got over 8 years of experience as a virtual assistant and has been managing my whole entire team for close to 4 years now. So she knows what she's doing, and she's going to help you guys out in a big way. Thank you. We look forward to the next series. We're going to be getting back to basics starting in Q1 of 2025. So our new series will be called Back to Basics, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys on our next training in the new year.